Everyone to today's induction. I'm Sachin and I'm the Knowledge Exchange and Impact Manager for the IRC. We'll be starting today's presentation is going to be given by Steve and Tim, who are the co-directors for the IRC. So over to you guys.
Thanks, Sachin. Maybe I'll just kick off. Firstly, welcome to this. Thanks very much for your applications to the call. Congratulations on actually getting one of the grants. It was pretty tough competition this time around, so you did very well to be in the room here. And we look forward to working with you over the next few months. Three things we want to try and do today. One is to give you a little bit of a background about what our expectations as IRC are from you as grant holders. Second, to give you an opportunity to share with the other people in the room a little bit about your own particular project. And we'll need to keep that quite brief. And then finally, I think just to have a little bit of an opportunity for you to ask us any questions that you have around how you and the IRC can work together to maximize the sort of value added of what you are trying to do. Tim, I don't know whether you want to pick up with some of the introductory slides.
Yeah, no, happy to do that. So just to echo Steve's congratulations, we thought it'd be useful just to kind of introduce a few people who are on the call and part of the team. And I think kind of you've got your projects, that's brilliant. We want to help showcase and kind of elevate those. And part of what we do with the team, we have Sammy, well, I'll call them out and maybe you can say hello. So we've got Sammy, Sachin, who you've already heard from, but Becky and Beth as well. So Sammy, do you want to say hello quickly?
Yeah, hi everyone. So yeah, I'm the project manager. My role is to support Tim and Steve and the rest of the IRC team with all the various projects and activities. And of course, that means now engaging with you guys to make sure that you've got what you need. And it means occasionally we'll be asking for some updates from you. But yeah, if you've got any questions at any point, please don't hesitate to get in touch.
Great. So you've heard from Sachin already, and I think Sachin's role is really important in really trying to elevate the kind of the impact of some of the work. And Sachin, do you want to just say hello again and kind of mention in what capacity you're working with us in the team?
Yep, so my name is Sachin and I am the Knowledge Exchange and Impact Manager for the IRC. I'm here to support projects with the diffusing their outputs amongst your target stakeholders. So that is UKRI, ESRC and Innovate UK, and looking beyond that as well to see how we can help you. I think that's it for now, sir.
Great, thank you. So the team and the management of the IRC is kind of divided between Warwick and Oxford Brookes. And so the other member of the team at Warwick is Becky. So Becky, do you want to say a bit about what you do and how you might interface with some of the projects?
Yeah, so hello, yeah, I'm Becky and I'm the Communications and Engagement Manager at the IRC. And I imagine that we'll work quite closely on sharing your reports on our website and social media channels primarily. But also, should you wish to organise any dissemination events or want to write any blogs or any content also for our website, then we can kind of work on doing that as well. Yeah, and that's that in a nutshell.
Great. And last but not least is Beth, who is part of the team and also based at Brookes. So Beth, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi everybody. A lot of you I think have met me through emails, just inviting you to things like the webinar in the first place, and that's the sort of thing I do. The admin in the background, everything that encompasses, and look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Super. And I think that the key thing to say is that as part of the IRC community with your project, the team that we've got are there to kind of support you in the kind of maximising the communication and the impact around the work that you're doing. And I mean, we're very much a kind of an investment from ESRC, UKRI and Innovate that is there to try and make sure that we are providing those actionable insights. And that's something that we've been about now over the last 3 years. Okay, should we jump on a slide? Okay, so you can kind of see here, this is broadly how we set out. So Steve and myself are here today as the co-directors. We've got a number of co-investigators that are based around the UK. So Muthu De Silva at Birkbeck, Thomas Coates Ulrichsen at Cambridge, Raquel Ortega Agiles at Manchester, and others at Brookes, Warwick and Glasgow now. Lauren Tuckerman, who's moved from Brookes recently. We've talked about the kind of the project management team, and again, we've got a series of research associates that are part of the core team that sit across Brookes, Manchester and Warwick. In addition to that, we've got this group of a council of experts who are involved with things like the reviews, but also the projects that we do. But we are also there to try and engage with the wider social science community, and that's where you guys come in. So we're very much a kind of a community building initiative. We've got that network. And we're also constantly engaging with a wider group of interested stakeholders. So that includes the likes of DCIT, DBT. We're working with OECD in different areas. And one of the things that we really want to try and do is to make sure that the work that you do just doesn't kind of culminate in a project and a report that sits there. We want to try and make sure that we can give it that visibility. And one of the things in reviewing the projects and selecting the projects that we have is trying to kind of think about how we can help connect the projects with each other, how we can help connect the projects in with representatives from UKRI, from Innovate UK as appropriate, to try and really make sure that those insights that are developed are not just kind of research that, like I say, sits on a shelf, but it's research that makes a difference. In order to do that effectively, we do want you to contact us. We want you to kind of continue to engage with the project management team, let them know what's going on and making sure that we can give that visibility. Should we jump on again? And again? So just really a bit of kind of context and background about kind of the Innovation Research Caucus. And for many of you kind of having applied and knowing a bit about who we are, you'll already understand some of this. But really the kind of the challenge that we're there to try and address is pulling together insights that meet the evidence needs of our funders. And it makes us quite unique as an investment in that respect. So we are co-funded by Innovate, ESRC and UKRI. Colleagues from those three entities were involved in assessing the proposals. So they see the merit in the work that we are supporting. And we want to make sure that we can feed that through. So the kinds of things that we do, it's addressing evidence needs, evidence gaps, but it's also trying to think a little bit more into the future where we talk about horizon scanning needs there, but also thinking about how your projects may feed into what comes next. And we recognise that there's shifts going on within UKRI. We've seen the new chief exec. We also know the kind of mission focused approach. How what you're doing and the work that the core caucus team does feeds into that is really important. And we try to do that, like I say, through providing constructive challenge, through insights from projects. Some of you will be more involved in the kind of thought leadership side of it, but all of you will be generating evidence that we can kind of pull together and put in front of the right people. But it isn't something that you can do alone. It's not something we can do alone. It is about trying to make sure that we've got that connection with you. So please don't think of this as great, you've got the project, go off and do it and we'll see you at the end. We want to try and maintain that link and connection with you throughout. And we've got the team that are able to do that. Steve and I are constantly interested in what's going on, kind of cherry picking and understanding, but it's incredibly difficult to have full oversight of that. So do share with us, share with the team as well. And we will try and do what we can to make sure that you're kind of put in the strongest position to engage and communicate with those different stakeholders. Okay. So again, I'm not going to read through these, but you can have a quick scan at the objectives of the IRC. And I think that for me, the one that kind of really matters, and Steve and I talk about this a lot, is the fourth one, which I will kind of reflect on. So one of our objectives in setting up the IRC and as we were funded was to become a world leading centre for excellence in thought leadership around those evidence needs, providing insights on research and innovation funding, support strategies, and what interventions that may lead to. So it's about taking the research and actually making sure that we can develop the so what from it and begin to think about how that becomes actionable. So when you're doing the project, when you're thinking about the kind of recommendations or you're thinking about how and what conclusions you might be presenting, we want to work with you to be able to think about how that's going to land with a funder. And I think that funders are really important. They're not just there to give out money, they're there to shape the debate. They're there to try and help think about what the next steps are in many of these areas. And actually, if you are able to influence that, I'd say that that is as impactful, if not more impactful, than the kind of the funding itself, because you're actually trying to shape the direction of where some of this goes. And the three preceding objectives there kind of really do just feed into that in different ways as well. Should we jump on? So a little bit about what we do. And I think that the way that we've come to kind of see ourselves is sitting between the kind of those funded groups of UKRI, their kind of corporate function, Innovate UK and ESRC, and the wider academic community that have interests in research and innovation systems. So how do we connect? How do we provide that bridge? Very early on, it became apparent that individual academics trying to get traction with the likes of ESRC or Innovate based on a piece of research are finding that challenging. And you can imagine it's not just that one academic that's trying to do that. There's a whole community out there that want to try and share and showcase their insight. So we can help provide that conduit, that mechanism to do that. And as kind of Beth and Becky both said, if you are looking to try and do an event, we can help try and curate that with you. We can try and bring projects together. Through the last funding round that we had, we found that there were a series of projects that had relevant kind of shared insights and outcomes, perhaps around kind of systems thinking, perhaps around a particular approach using a place-based lens, where we can pull those projects together, curate them as one event, and we can try and make sure that we land that with the kind of policy and the funders community as much as the academic community. So we're constantly trying to think about who we're trying to influence and what we're trying to influence with those types of events. So again, it's not an event for an event's sake. Everyone's busy, lots of things have moved online, but how do we try and have high impact events that really do target a particular audience for a particular outcome? Okay. So you're here as part of Flexible Fund 3. And again, like I've said a number of times, it is about those actionable insights. We're interested in both the kind of the economic outcomes associated with the work, but also some of those non-economic outcomes, thinking about the kind of the social, the societal impacts of the work and what you're looking at. And we want to be able to make sure that they do feed through into other areas. And I think one of the reasons why, as a project, you've been selected is in no small part the funders community that have been part of that assessment process see that there are elements of your projects that resonate with what they're doing, what they're thinking, or where they anticipate they will be. So there's an opportunity in there to try and make a difference through what you're doing. And it is really about trying to think about what works. Is it going to work differently in different places, and why it would work, and how we translate that research into practice. And I think that having worked in this kind of space for a number of years with Steve, it's something that academics may be expected to know, but actually it's something that takes a long time to engage with. And hopefully by working with us and working with the IRC team, we can provide a bit of a shortcut into some of that to try and get to some of those impacts. And what we've seen from earlier rounds is some of these small projects where they kick off have moved on to bigger things, whether that is through the caucus or going in for independent funding as well. And again, it's that kind of catalytic effect that we're looking to try and have. Steve, I'm aware that I'm talking lots, so feel free to jump in if you want.
I think you're doing a great job, Tim. So I just didn't feel any need to really,
right.
But as you always do. So
we speak with one voice. It's like I'm the puppet and Steve's the puppet master. So should we go on to the next slide then? And then we'll get on to the exciting bit, which is going to be hearing about the project. So we've got a bit of time left in the meeting, and really what we want to try and do is to make sure that we're kind of sharing some of the insights from the projects that we've got in the room. There is a circular that Sachin and the team will kind of also make sure that everyone has sight of, which shows some of the previous projects, where they're at and who's been involved. I'd absolutely encourage everyone to try and make those connections. Certainly in the room, that's a lot easier, but actually with some of those projects that have been undertaken previously. So if you see someone in an area that you think is similar, please do reach out to them. I can genuinely say they're a good bunch, as I'm sure that you are as well. But what we want to do is to try and capacity build. And I think that in doing that, it really is just about trying to kind of reach out, see whether there's any lessons, any insights from the previous projects that each other has kind of taken on in this group. And also, like I say, talking to the core team, and we'll help you with that as well. So, Sachin, I'm going to hand back to you to kind of chair through this bit, if that's all right. But what we're going to do is we're going to have the presentations and go through them in that order with a bit of time at the end for discussion. And I will apologise now that I have to drop out at 2:30, but I will be back by by about 2:45. So I apologise for who I will miss.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, these are the set of presentations that the people that are presenting today. Thanks everyone for sending them through. So the first on the list is Kevin, who's unfortunately not able to present at the minute, but Maurizio, over to you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maurizio Perez-Alanis. I'm based here at the University of Limerick here in Ireland, and I'm a co-investigator on this project. And I'm here today with another co-investigator, Professor Elena Lenihan, also from the University of Limerick. And as you said, I'm stepping in today for the project PI, Kevin Mulligan, who is battling with flight cancellations across Europe due to bad weather. Okay, so in a nutshell, in this project, we seek to examine when SMEs transition from small-scale support for collaborative research and innovation to mid-scale collaborative supports, and how this impacts firm-level R&D, innovation, and performance. Just to say, small-scale collaborative supports are one way in which UK policymakers can help firms to get their entry ticket to the innovation game, and in this way support the long-term resilience of the UK R&I system. And it is implicit in most government funding schemes, such as these small collaborative supports, that they should have a capacity building and learning effects on firms, especially SMEs. And this can also realize by enabling firms that receive these small-scale collaborative supports to go on and win further larger and more comprehensive types of supports. However, to the best of our knowledge, there is currently no research on this notion of supports across the stages of SMEs' innovation journey. And by addressing this evidence gap, we aim to provide actionable insights for enhancing the UK research and innovation systems. So how are we doing this? We have access to unique data, very comprehensive administrative data on the collaborative research and innovation supports to firms, especially SMEs in the Republic of Ireland. Access to this data is through Professor Lenihan here in UL at the University of Limerick. And this Irish data enables an analysis which is currently not possible with available UK data, but that we believe is directly relevant for the UK research and innovation system. And more specifically, we will focus on SMEs that receive an innovation voucher in one period and then transition to receiving an innovation partnership in a later period. Vouchers are common to both the UK and Ireland and provide small-scale support for SMEs to begin collaborations with academics in higher education institutions. They are inexpensive, relatively easy to implement, and therefore provide a low-stakes route into collaboration for SMEs. Innovation partnerships are the next rung in this collaborative support ladder. They fund more complex and long-term projects. And while this instrument is specific to the Republic of Ireland, they're also highly relevant for the UK context. And this is because some preliminary analysis shows that a large percentage of UK recipients of innovation vouchers go on to win further mid-scale research and innovation supports. In terms of the methodology, we follow a two-stage approach. We will create suitable control groups to enable a reliable comparison for SMEs that transition from innovation vouchers to these innovation partnerships. And then in stage 2, we will implement modern DID methods, which are specifically designed to account for staggered treatment and time effects when conducting impact evaluation. At all times, it's important to emphasize that we aim for the results of this project to produce actionable insights into how UK policy can encourage and grow a pipeline of R&D active SMEs using these targeted collaborative supports, and thus in turn contribute at enhancing the UK research and innovation system. This is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for stepping in for Kevin. We're now on to Amy, our next presenter.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy from Queen's University Belfast, and the project is renting between me, like Professor Nola, Professor Steve, and also Dr. Jason. I'm sorry, I forgot to actually put the co-investigator into the PowerPoint. So the whole project is actually examining how knowledge transfer happens inside public funded R&D consortia, and I'm aiming to using strengths in places fund consortia as the empirical settings. So we all know that these consortia actually built to generate collaborations and spillovers, but in practice, knowledge normally does not move really automatically. So partners actually facing the coordination burdens, uncertainty about what can be shared, and competition tensions that can actually slow or derail the transfer. So the project is actually like takes a process view of knowledge transfer. So we are aiming to chase how knowledge is actually created inside of the consortium and how it is shared, transferred, translated, and taken up across different partners, and where it actually gets stuck, and what makes the transfer sustainable beyond the funded period and more likely to generate wider spillovers. In terms of the methodologies, we are aiming to collect information from the strengths in places funding projects, and we are aiming to use qualitative multiple case studies to get interview with the project managers, different partners within the consortium, and also get some documents from them to actually make qualitative study about that. In terms of where the fundings will lead to, we are aiming to have two main directions. So first, for the consortium leader, sorry. We will produce practical guidance on how to strengthen the day-to-day knowledge transfer and sustain it over time, and then including what roles, routines, and governance arrangements can help knowledge move safely and productively across the organization boundaries. And then second, for the funders and the program designers, we are aiming to involve how program can set expectations on monitor progress, and by identifying the common bottlenecks and the conditions that enable the sustained sharing and post-project uptake, we can actually offer some recommendations on the evaluation milestones and target the support that can actually improve the long-term spillovers and place-based impact, and rather than assume the whole outcomes actually emerge automatically. So this is my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks very much. We have the next project so this is the IRM. Is it Sarah you presenting?
Hi.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi. I'm filling in for Apurva today. She had to step out for a last minute unavoidable commitment, but we are co-leading this project for that reason, so that there's always someone that can step in. So we are not a university. We are the Innovation Growth Lab, which is a global policy lab. We work at the intersection between policy and research. And in our previous work on science commercialization, we have noticed that multiple scales of readiness are used to assess commercial endeavors or research endeavors. The most widely used of them all is the technology readiness. And then all the other ones, like market readiness, commercial readiness, social readiness, intellectual property readiness, are used and adapted at the level of the agency that are using them. And the issue with that is that first of all, there's not a common, scale or setup to orient every stakeholder, even though there are many stakeholders that in this ecosystem need to cooperate with each other. The other thing is that these scales are normally used descriptively. So where is the project at this moment? But for many stakeholders, funders, but even the projects themselves, the question is also a prescriptive one. Where should I be? Given that I'm at this level of technology readiness, where should I be in the other areas? And then the third issue that we saw is that there are no common metrics, right? Like everybody, because the scales are developed at the agency or stakeholder level or adapted, then there are different metrics. So being at a certain level means often different things for these newer scales for different agencies. So what we propose is what we're calling the integrated readiness matrix, which is a matrix that anchors the different commercial market, social, societal readiness scales to the technology readiness scale framework, because that's the most widely adopted one, the most that most people use. And so therefore building on top of that seems like the most easier practical way to anchor this, instead of like creating separate scales. So anchoring the different scales to that one to tell you, if you're at TRL3, then you should be thinking about these other things in terms of commercial, market, and societal readiness. The other thing that we are going to include is also metrics for each of those boxes, basically for each of those levels. How do I measure that? How do I measure that as a research endeavor, but how do I measure that as a funder, as a venture capitalist, and so on? How we're going to get there? We are going to employ a mixed methods approach, so both doing desk research on how the different scales are being applied at the moment, and then running semi-structured interviews with different stakeholders in the ecosystem to establish both how they're using it and how to best use it. So validating the proposal that we will be putting forward. We hope that that will help different actors in the ecosystem have an easier time talking to each other and speaking the same language, and that will be a useful tool both for those who are seeking to commercialize technology, but also for those who are seeking to support that process. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So we have Bowie next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bowie Chen from the University of Glasgow Adam Smith Business School. I'm pleased to introduce our project. Can we move the slide? Oh, yeah, thank you. I can't remember the full title. Our project, Responsible AI in Social Science Research and Innovation. And in this project, I work with Professor Niran Acker, who also works at University of Glasgow. And while AI is increasingly adopted in social science research and innovation, responsible AI practice have not yet been consistently understood, evaluated, and embedded into research funding, project design, and implementation. And our project is focused on the question that how can responsible AI been meaningfully integrated into social science research and innovation in ways that strengthen resilience, inclusivity, and the trust among the UK's research and innovation system. So to address this question, we examine how AI is currently adopted among the UK's funded social science projects. That's why we use the UKI's GTR dataset. It allowed us to extract the patterns from the funded projects. And in the meantime, we also complement these with the qualitative evidence from the case studies, audits, interviews, and the stakeholder workshops. So we use the mixed method in the project. We hope that we can get the system levels patterns from the GTR dataset by using text mining and data-driven methods. And in the meantime, we can get some detailed and evidence-based insights from the qualitative evidence. And the findings from our project are expected to inform practical framework and policy guidance embedding responsible AI and the responsible innovation across UK research funding and practice. So I would like to highlight that our project is designed to be collaborative. So if there's any other opportunities to engage with other IRC projects, we very much welcome further discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now over to Gemma.
Hi, Sachin. Thanks very much. Hi, everyone. I'm Gemma. I'm also at the University of Glasgow with Bowie. I'm a lecturer in innovation and technology management. And I'm super excited about my project, focusing on this new organizational form or emerging organizational form that's called the Focused Research Organization. Specifically, this research is going to be looking at how this form of organizational design can contribute to a more resilient UK research and innovation ecosystem. So for anyone who's not come across the Focused Research Organization or the FRO before, these are non-profit organizations and they're specifically designed to address what's seen as an organizational design gap for managing a particular stage or type of scientific project. So these are projects that are too big to be undertaken by like a single academic lab. They're more coordinated than a loose consortium or a theme department or like an academic centre. But they're also not necessarily directly profitable enough to be, what might be a venture-backed startup or an industrial R&D project. So the idea behind this sort of organizational design is to try and fill that gap. And they're not just a sort of standard not for profit, they pursue pre-specified quantifiable technical milestones, and they're designed to only exist for a finite time, which is about 5 years. And the idea being that they actively deploy public goods as they go and at the end. So, for instance, open sourcing data or spinning out nonprofits or startups or partnering with existing institutions. So this organizational forum has recently been getting quite a lot of momentum in the US, but we're starting to see signals of them becoming of interest in the UK, both to researchers who are looking for alternatives to sort of quote unquote standard spinouts, but also to funders. ARIA has recently funded an FRO, DSET has funded an FRO, and ARIA has partnered with Convergent Research, which is a US NGO, to run an incubator program for FROs in the UK. And that's what this research project is actually. We're going to be working directly with Convergent UK. They're partnered with me, which is brilliant. And we're essentially going to follow the launch of this first cohort of FROs in the UK. They did a lot of the incubation at the end of last year, and now the FROs that are going to get funded specifically by Convergent are going to launch in the UK, and I'm going to follow their launch, as it were. And look at the kind of dynamics of their early development. So qualitative study, interviews, document analysis, and also a bit of comparison between the incubation programs that have been done in the US, getting the data from Convergent, and then in the UK. And I'm specifically interested in the kind of issues that arise or the opportunities that might arise with eligibility policies with UKRI and Innovate UK in terms of access to funding and access to resources for organizational forms that are perhaps non-traditional. So looking at if and how this forum is of interest to the UK innovation system, and if so, how they can be better supported from a funder perspective, if at all. So looking at FRO specifically, but more broadly, and what I'm interested in more broadly, and I'd always welcome collaboration if anyone's interested to. I'm very interested in kind of alternative organizational designs or kind of institutional innovation, as it's called, specifically looking at how these new ideas work or don't work in practice, and when it comes to kind of mission-driven science, as it were. So yeah, I'm super excited and look forward to working with you all as the months go on. Cheers.
Thanks very much. So now it's over to Nadine.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right? Right.
Yes.
All right. First of all, I want to thank the IRC team for this opportunity. It's really instrumental for ECR support this kind of grants. My name is Nadine. I'm a lecturer in business and management from Oxford Brookes University. So in this project, I'm also supported by Dr. Naman Merchant, who is a lecturer in game technology from Aberdeen University in Scotland. So this project is about rethinking innovation funding for social enterprises. So what we've seen in past research is that, especially when it comes to innovation that aims at multiple bottom lines, so both social and economic returns, funding can be a major challenge. This kind of innovation are especially delivered by mission-led organizations like social enterprises, which is the focus of this study. We've taken social enterprises as the vehicle or delivery vehicle for innovation in this study. So what we have seen in the past studies is that social enterprise, there can be quite disparities between the aim, values, and priorities of social enterprises with funding organizations. there can be misalignment between the processes and the models of funding provided to what does such enterprises need. But at the same time, we've also seen that such mission-led organizations are quite instrumental to the UK economy. They have been quite important in this in delivering welfare objectives of the UK government as well as the Scottish government. There are over 131,000 social enterprises in the UK contributing over 70 billion to the UK economy. So this research, the impetus for this research kind of emerged to bridge this gap, to bridge this disparity. And the objective here is to kind of bring together members from both the sides, both from social enterprises and funding organizations together to rethink what innovation model and mechanism can look like that can better facilitate such innovation. So the process we're going to do this is, as mentioned, through a co-design method where we are going to organize structured interactions via 3 workshops so that the participants can explore and navigate realistic funding scenarios, make decisions, and ultimately reimagine the logics and processes and models of funding that aligns with the interests of both the sides. We're going to leverage tools from serious games here. And if I can request Naman to quickly chime in because it's better placed to talk about that.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a bit more about serious games. They're basically games that are designed for a primary purpose, which is not entertainment. So it can be training, education, or social change in general. Generally, when you think about Abate, so I'm from Abate as a lecturer over here. When you think of Abate and games, they are think of video games, but this is not generally video games. Serious games are not limited to video games. They can be board games, can be interactive kind of elements which you bring to workshops. And there's a few games that we already worked on before at Abate, such as Right to Roam, which brings the idea of social kind of spaces and how there are limitations across different bodies and different kind of people. So we want to bring this kind of interactive and bring these discussions on the table between these different funding bodies and social innovations that we want to bring across. Back over to you, Nadine. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, so by the end of the project, we hope to have developed a funding model and a framework which will be relevant for organizations like the Innovate UK or even like grant-making trusts and social investors who are designing funding schemes to support mission-led organizations. But at the same time, the co-design toolkit will also be relevant to policymakers because there is the UK Innovation Strategy and the Scottish National Innovation Strategy, but we have seen that mission-led organizations like social enterprises have kind of dipped from those conversations in recent times. So yeah, that's the ultimate goal of the project, and that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you. So over to Ozge now. Sorry, I hope I pronounced your name wrong. Right.
Yes, that's great. Thank you, Sachin. So our project is about regional innovation systems. So it's quite a well-established topic. I am together today with Professor David Charles, but we also have Professor Gary Bosford in our team, and we all have previous research on this topic, as many of you in this room might have. But what is new in our approach is we're trying to look at where regional innovation systems do not very easily or readily emerge. So what do they have to offer in relation to more current concerns about geographical inequalities and economic disparity? So this is a very interesting and potentially fruitful approach for policy perspective, because if we can find ways to encourage regional innovation systems to emerge in less privileged areas, there's quite a lot to gain. In regions such as where we are based in northeast of England, but also equally in northwest, we have been hearing that these are regions with high potential but low opportunities. So far, the research, as we all know, have focused on already successful innovation systems such as Silicon Valley, and we would like to create a different approach. So theoretically and conceptually, there's quite a lot to gain, but of course, there's a reason why most of the research focused on already established, visible, successful regional innovation systems, and that is because it is difficult to study something that does not yet exist or is not very visible, is in the background. So in order to address this fundamental difficulty, we are going to do a variety of things. That's why we have a busy conceptual framework in our project. Firstly, we would like to look at the disparity notion of regional innovation systems on the large scale. So how do they emerge or fail to emerge? What are the barriers of regional innovation systems to emerge in less advantaged areas? So that is our main kind of starting point. But then we would like to look at regional innovation systems that have already emerged to some extent, has been persistent over decades, have produced a lot of success stories. And we would like to look this time on the inclusivity of these innovation systems. So who they include, who they exclude, who can benefit from learning and opportunities within these systems. And thirdly, we would like to do something interesting. Again, we would like to look at inclusive innovations. And we would like to understand the support system or innovation system. We do not yet know what to call this, if it's going to be the same as we know regional innovation systems, or it's going to be a completely different system in nature. But we would like to understand the system around these innovations and see if there are categorical differences between the typical regional innovation systems that we know from textbooks. So this is generally what we would like to do and what is our project is going to be about. And we aim to produce evidence-based insights and practical recommendations, like many other projects, to inform place-based policies as well as regional innovation policies, in a way to implement them better to the local contexts, such as north of England. We're going to use interviews as well as workshops, which have some similarities with the methods that were discussed for other projects. We would be very happy to discuss possible collaborations. What we would like to do in participatory action research workshops with collaborative budgeting is not very different from serious games, but we would like influential actors to imagine they are running the budget and making decisions about the policy priorities in their region. Of course, our fundings will show some nuanced understandings of regional innovation systems. So we are ambitious in terms of the theoretical context there, but we would like to be very practical as well. So we would like to understand barriers and enablers of regional innovation systems in less advantaged regions. And we would like to be able to contribute to a broader alignment between national priorities in innovation policy and place-based initiatives as well. So I think that's the end of my presentation, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about your projects and possibly collaborating with you in this journey.
Thank you very much. So next on the list is Patan Pong. I hope I pronounced that right.
That's perfect. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, we can, yes.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And my name is Patanapong Tiwasingh. I am Assistant Professor in Sustainable Innovation at the University of Nottingham. Our project is a collaboration between the University of Nottingham, London Metropolitan University, and ACT Impact. I think Professor Tom Macmillan also on the call as well. And for this project, basically, the idea is come from when, as we know that agri-tech is identified as a frontier industry in the UK industrial strategy. This is reflected in government spending over 300 million a year on agricultural research and innovation to help the government manage a huge fundings. So our aim is to identify strategic priorities for investment in the UK agricultural research and innovation infrastructure. To do this, we use a variety of data sources, including administrative data, like funding records in terms of the GTR, DEFRA, Innovate UK, UKRI, and also institutional data or open data from bibliometric or statistics from ONS. And we also plan to conduct a survey with a researcher and do a workshop with key stakeholders. And we will apply mixed method techniques And we will use different, advanced data analysis, including machine learning, text mining, and mapping analysis to help us analyze research funding data and output, and the survey of research to help us to quantify the demand for infrastructure. And we also conduct interviews with key stakeholders and the workshop as well to help us interpret these needs and evaluate investment options. So we really hope that our project will help the government to identify gaps between existing infrastructure and also future research needs, and help deliver a clear and prioritized set of infrastructure investment options for the UK research funders. And I'm really looking forward to working with you all and also collaborating with you as well. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And last but not least, we have Samia, who is on our Action to Impact call. Over to you, Samia.
Thank you so much, Sachin, and thank you for all the presentation. These are very interesting projects. So this project, which I'm now doing, is with my co-investigators Nadia Asghar and Kevin Kosha. And this is an Action to Impact project that transforms the existing research on manufacturing small and medium enterprises on digital and green adoption barriers in West Midland. So we want to actually translate into actionable policy ready guidance. So it is based on our earlier project, which is just now in the stage of completion. It's an IRC funded study which identify why manufacturing SME struggle with digitalization, net zero and productivity despite strong intent. So the original research generated strong evidence on barriers, but its outputs are primarily analytical. So this project moved beyond diagnosis. So the main purpose is to convert that evidence which we have from longitudinal small business survey data for 2 years, and interviews from manufacturing SMEs in West Midland, and focus group from the stakeholders, the regional stakeholders and policymakers, and the policy review. All of this data we want to convert it into practical tools that policymakers and delivery bodies can use immediately, shifting the focus from what SME lack to how support system can be designed to help them act. So what the key finding is likely to lead to is the clear usable guidance for organizations such as Innovate UK, regional growth agencies, which is grounded in real SME experience. And firstly, we want to identify the inefficiencies in existing provision, including complexity, fragmentation, poor fit with SME capacity. And then we provide guidance on targeted, accessible interventions that increase uptake of digital and green and net zero practices. And then we will have the transferable, we are planning to have a transferable tools and insights, which is the main thing that inform policy beyond West Midland. So obviously it is on West Midland, but it can be helpful for other regions for supporting productivity, resilience and net zero goals. So in summary, demonstrate how existing evidence can be translated into usable policy guidance. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So that brings us to the end of the presentation section, and I'd like to hand it back, hand the session back to Steve. Thank you.
Thanks, Sachin, and thanks everyone for some really interesting sort of short presentations. Projects always come alive when you hear people talk about them, so it's quite exciting to hear them. We've read about them, but it's great to hear from you putting them in your own words, so that's very interesting. We have a couple of slides just to finish off, and then we'll have some time for questions. Just about what we want from you as project owners from our side. So, Sachin, let's quickly work through these couple of slides. We've used this phrase a number of times actionable insights, and you've picked up the importance of that from the briefing of the projects, and it was part of all of your project kind of descriptions. It's not something that we expect you necessarily to dream up yourselves. We'll work quite closely with you during the different elements of the project, particularly Sachin, to try to help you try and identify who the key individuals that you might want to work with are, and then to think about what their needs for insight might be and how you can shape some of the outputs from your project to deal with that. We're always going to anticipate that the key output from this for you is an academic research paper or several, if that's possible. But clearly, from an IRC point of view, our funding is very geared towards meeting the evidence needs of UKRI, SRC, and Innovate UK. Colleagues there tend not to read academic research papers. They tend to get bored by the end of the introduction. And so we tend to sort of think about outputs for them in a slightly different way. Let's go back to the next slide, Sachin, can we? Sorry, go to the next slide. Yeah. So what we're asking each sort of project to do is to think about producing some sort of final project report. Key point here is this should be written for a non-academic audience. So it's not, so it's about language, that's about clarity, focus on the key takeaways and the results rather than the methodology, whereas if we were doing an academic paper, that would be a slightly different format. We don't care whether it's 10 pages, might well be, but certainly not particularly long. 20 to 30 pages would be the absolute maximum. Otherwise, we just risk losing engagement. So I think your first job is really writing the sort of academic research paper. And then the second job is actually spinning that into some sort of report that we can use to help identify and crystallize the actionable insights from that work to pass on to and share with our broader stakeholders and the folk that will be your stakeholders as well at that point. But so this is kind of like the end point of the project as far as we're concerned. Let's go on, Sachin. And we would expect you to be obviously working on the academic papers long after the sort of project phase is finished, because it'll take a while to write those up, get them submitted, revise and resubmit, and then get them published. But all that happens way down the line. But from our point of view, it's this report that kind of marks the end point of the project and the end point of the deliverables. We'll put these on the website. We'll format with IRC branding and any other sort of branding that you want to have on that, your own universities, or if there's project partners, then we can very happily include those in all of that branding. And we'll of course acknowledge, everyone's contribution, and it'll be a sort of owned piece from you. There's loads of examples of this now on the IRC website, so you can have a look there and see what kinds of things there are that we've published, if that's helpful. Let's go on, Sachin. So just some final contact details there, but so let's take a few minutes. We've got about half an hour left, although we may not need it all, for a few questions and answers. So if there's anything that you want to know, either about how the IRC can support you with this project, or anything else that's been said this afternoon, let's deal with those questions now. We don't need to use the half hour, but we've got it if we need it. So please.
Can I ask a question, please?
Samir, of course, yes, please.
Because my project have no report, the outputs are different because it is action to, so it is evidence to action project. So I have infographics and policy recommendation. So it's not an actual report. So there are three actually outputs which are different from that one. I hope it is okay.
Yes, that's fine, Samir. I mean, it is a slightly different project to some of the others. I absolutely accept that. And I guess that we would be in the same way that on the IRC website for some of the projects that we have a couple of different sorts of outputs. So we might have databases and we might have a report and we might have an infographic as well. I think we can deal with your outputs from that project. But no, that's absolutely fine. There's no necessity to put together a sort of final report if that's not the way that the project falls out and what it's producing. Please, Sarah.
Hi. Yeah, so I have three questions. I think the first one was already answered. Yes, I was saying we are not academics, so we don't seek to produce papers. We are seeking to produce this integrated readiness matrix. So I would say we will just work with Sachin on seeing what the best format is for that, to make it maximally actionable as well. That's our objective. And then I had two questions. One is, we got some really helpful or insightful comments as feedback to the application. And so we were wondering whether, well, we don't know who reviewed, but whether we could have a conversation on the back of those comments, to make sure that it's also as useful to those who reviewed it as possible. So that would be one question, and how to go about that. And the other one is a bit of an ask. As you heard, we are doing a mixed methods approach that also includes interviews. And so obviously, if you already have someone who you think, should be interviewed as part of this process, we are definitely happy to take them on our list and start scheduling as soon as possible.
Thanks, Sarah. All good questions. I mean, I think we're very happy to have a conversation about any of these projects or all of them at some point. I mean, it's your project, not ours, but happy to sort of talk through the feedback to the extent that we can. I can't remember specifically who was on the review panel for your particular project, but I'm sure we can pick up some sense of that. And if there's anything there that we can do to help, all well and good. In terms of sort of thinking about people for interview, I think it's unlikely that we'll have specific people that we feel need to be interviewed. But if you are looking for a particular type of person with a particular kind of background, either in the agencies or elsewhere, then we can certainly help. Because, through Tim's networks and mine and those of some of the other members of the IRC, we can probably try and help. So if it's a question about trying to identify individuals that you might approach for interview, let us know what kinds of individuals you're wanting, and we can have a conversation about that. We've found that Beth's super at sort of identifying people for interviews in the past, so that's something that we might be able to help with. Yeah. Nadine, please.
Hi, Steve. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify a little bit more about the report deadline. So does it have to be produced within the 6 months timeline of the project, or it can go beyond that?
So ideally, I think, Nadine, what we'd like is the report within the 6 month timeline. I mean, I think we all recognise that work on each of these projects is probably going to go beyond that. We have a little bit of leeway in terms of, sort of thinking about that. But we really think people should be aiming to sort of complete the at least the initial project report within that 6 month period. I mean, we can have a conversation about that in May.
Okay.
And see where we all are, but that would be our aspiration, really. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think you kind of answered my second question. I was going to ask, same, that if the IRC can help with research contacts, if we are trying to secure someone from the network, especially.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
No, absolutely. And I think so I would say that what we are not wanting to do is to arrange all your interviewees for you.
Oh, no.
But if you are facing challenges identifying people within Innovate or within UKRI, or within ESRC or any other kinds of organisations that you need to find, that you need to get to for these to make these projects success, then we can certainly try and help with those unblocking those barriers, I think. Just talk to us.
Yep.
You know, I mean, you can talk to Sammy or talk to Sachin, and then we'll go from there. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Gemma, please.
I think you might have actually just answered my question in that final statement there. It was basically to sort of say who's the first person. There's lots of you on the team. Don't want to clog up everybody's inboxes. Is it Sammy and Beth who moved to email as first point of contact for questions? So I've got a stakeholder workshop, for instance. I want to make sure I get the right people in the room. I'm assuming Sachin's good for that, but then do you see what I mean?
Yes.
I mean,
Sorry.
Go ahead, Sachin.
No, I was about to say, so once this induction is done, the next up would be to arrange an introductory meeting with UKRI, your UKRI stakeholders. So if there are any particular people that you'd like to invite to particular events or how to get in contact, that may be a starting point as well, that half-hour meeting. And then if there's still sort of issues, then we can sort of look at that and ask around the IRC. But I'd imagine, Steve, I wondered if you had anything to add to that.
No, not really. I mean, the way that the kind of responsibilities tend to fall is Sammy really holds the ring in terms of the sort of broad network. Becky is your contact for all things social media and web related. Sachin is your contact for any sort of thing around impact or those kinds of interpersonal contacts with UKRI or the other stakeholders. And you know, and if Sachin can't identify people, he'll very quickly come to Tim or myself or one of the other sort of senior people on the Council of Experts to try to help identify contacts. So that's usually the way it works.
Okay, amazing. Oh, and Beth, I've just seen your comment. Yeah, thank you so much.
Great. And Beth's there to keep us all in line. So that's
and sorry, Sachin, just to off your point around the UKRI meeting, is that you're going to organise that for us or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right,
So
okay.
we'll organise that, Gemma. I mean, we ideally, and it doesn't always happen, these projects become a little bit of a conversation between UKRI, ESRC, or Innovate and the research team. They read the projects like we did and were fascinated by them, which is why you're in the room today. So they are already interested in this. And I mean, the more that conversation becomes a conversation rather than just a research project in isolation, the more it's likely to have some impact on the policy framework going forward. So it's really helpful to have that conversation as a kind of ongoing thing if it's possible. Doesn't always work, but sometimes, you know, if they're really interested in a kind of particular project, they'll pick it up and work with you on that basis, you know, and
that's brilliant.
and maybe meet you a couple of times during the project, you know,
brilliant.
and interested. So yeah,
amazing.
Tom, let's come to you.
Yep. It's very good to hear that actually, you know, because our project actually have to deal with a lot of government data, and we already, you know, made connections with some of them now. It's really good to hear that IRC could help, you know, connected us with that. For my question, that's a quick question. Basically, I just wanted to know, because these are 6-month projects, I'm not sure in terms of whether we're going to have like a monitoring system that the team will monitor or ask for an update every 3 months or every 2 months, or it just leave us to deal with, you know, the project independently.
We have, I think we have 3 rounds of these projects running at the moment, plus another 12 Council of Experts projects, plus another 20 projects within IRC core team. So we're not going to monitor projects along the way. It's your money and your project, and you know we will talk to you as you go along. And we would like to know if there are any serious issues arising in terms of timeline, I think. But it's not something we're going to be monitoring you on every month. And we do not expect progress reports.
Yeah.
You can send them in if you want to, but nobody's going to read them. So I really wouldn't bother.
Yeah, Steve, I was just going to quickly jump in and just say, like, every maybe 2 or 3 months, so like halfway point for you guys, because it's only a 6-month project, we might drop you a very quick light touch email just to give us like 2 or 3 sentences just to say where you are, just make sure that we're checking in with you. And that's partly just to make sure, one, that everything you're okay, you don't need any more support from us, give us a heads up if you've got any events or things that you need our support with promoting. But also, obviously, we meet with our funders every quarter. And so again, it's just useful for us to have just a couple of lines occasionally just to give a bit of a status update. So in that, that's why there's no progress reports, like Steve said, it's just occasional, like very light touch check-ins. But please do feel, as Steve said, please keep us updated, reach out, stay connected with us, and you'll get less emails from us anyway.
Cool. Thanks, Sammy. Tom.
Hiya. Just I guess a question about the context of IRC a little bit, picking up on what you're both saying at the start about where it's all heading and things. Can you just run through? It'd be really interesting just to understand kind of how long's left with the current phase of IRC, and then what the sort of what your sense is of the direction of travel around UKRI's building its capacity around in this kind of area, and there's all the meta science stuff as well. So just any sort of flavour you can give of that longer term institutional engagement from their end.
So we had a midterm evaluation of IRC done, and which ESRC did. That was hugely positive. And I think that the level of engagement from UKRI and Innovate UK, particularly with IRC over the last year, has also been pretty intensive. Very few days pass without Tim or me spending quite a lot of time on various online calls to them. So, and that's true of very many of the people within IRC. So I think there's a very strong appreciation of what IRC can now do. Our current funding arrangement runs till September 26, end of September 26. But I think all of the indications that we are getting are that there is an appetite for funding something which looks like IRC for a period after that. We don't have any clarity on what that might look like at this point. That's something that by the end of these projects we will definitely know, or we'll need to. But that's the situation we're in at the moment. So we need all of these projects to clearly be done by September 26th at the latest, because that's our sort of drop dead date on this grant, this round of grant funding. But ideally, we have everything tied up in a bow by that point. But we don't see it ending at that point, and Tim and I are kind of fairly confident. I think that there'll be an IRC phase 2 to follow down the line. Cool. Tim, anything else that we should add?
No, I think from my side, certainly the projects that I heard there in the discussion, there's some really interesting stuff, and obviously seeing them all on the panel, it's great to put faces to names. I think it's for us to wish you good luck. We don't want to burden you in the delivery of this, but we want to support and we want to try and maximise what you're doing. And I think that, as Steve said, and I think in response to Tom's question, is hopefully as good for you as it is for us as the IRC, because I think we want to try and bring more expert insights that are actionable into the funders group. I think there's been an appetite for that. We've helped grow that. And I think it is a bit of an art. I think that, again, it is going backwards and forwards. Steve talked about that kind of conversational element. And if we can keep that how we work, and if you need help in brokering that, or you just want to chew the fat and get some reflection, whether it is from Steve and I, whether it is from others in the kind of core team, the co-Is or previous project holders, I just encourage you to have those conversations. I think that it's all about trying to work out where the wins are in this. We pulled together a kind of a edited collection a little while ago on scaling impact and engagement, which featured lots of insights from previous people that have been doing this. And I mean, being perfectly honest, it's lots of people get it wrong all the time. And I think that rather than getting it wrong, have a chat and let's try and work out how we can help you to get it right. And I think the good thing from my side is that the funders are receptive. We've got an audience that want this to happen. They want those insights and they want to do things. So in some cases, it is just connecting. The challenge on occasion is talking different languages. So I think that that's one of the biggest things I think I've learned from doing this over a number of years, that it is really trying to understand the difference between what they say and translating that into what they mean and what that might happen as an outcome. Because they're not, in some senses, interested in the research per se. They're interested in how the research helps further the impact that they're going to have. And I think that when you recognize that, and I say when the penny drops, I think many of you in the room will understand that, but it is actually putting that into practice where the big value added comes. And I think that's something where you've got the help of the caucus. We're not just kind of bankrolling this, we're there to try and help with that aspect as well. So do keep in touch. And like I say, if that is in response to Sammy and Beth's kind of midterm catch up, great. But if it is also around kind of talking to Becky and Sachin, then please reach out when you need something, and please ask the question, because that's why we've got the team, so we can respond.
Cool. Stay nice and warm as the storm hits the UK tonight. Those of you who are in Ireland also stay nice and warm. And I hope you're not too much snowed in wherever you are. I think we're anticipating 10 centimetres in the Midlands, so which is unusual to say the least. But we'll see how that goes. All right, folks. If there's anything else that comes up after this, please do drop us an email. Very, very happy to talk, and we'll wish Kevin all the best getting back from whichever airport he's stuck in at the moment. I'm not quite sure where he is, Sachin. Do we know?
No, I'm not quite sure. No, I don't. I'm afraid
where
he's
is he,
trying to
Mauricio?
get to. He's trying to get
Italy.
to Dublin.
Italy, apparently.
Oh, in
Italy.
Italy. Oh well, okay. Well, I no sympathy for him then. Italian airport, I quite like. Yeah. All right. Thanks
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Have a good
Thank you.
afternoon. Cheers.